Hello everyone, Merry Christmas everyone. My name's Andrea Ross, for those that don't know me, from the Career Establishment. So we're corporate training, we're e-learning, coaching company. And I'm joined by my co-host, the most beautiful Vinny Chan, who's team lead, not principal consultant, because she's just been promoted, for data, AI and technology across the region at NextWave Partners. She's based in Singapore, and NextWave I technology, energy and infrastructure business. So I'm really delighted to have Vinny hosting with me, as she is a billing manager, and she's also, you know, she's managing people, and she's also got her numbers to hit. And so I thought it'd be a really good idea to have someone that with me that is doing the day-to-day recruitment, where she's negotiating with clients, she's specking CVs, she's hitting her targets, because I really felt that would give you guys some really good sort of insights and tips in this hour. And that, with my 1,000 years of recruitment experience, I'm hoping that you're all in for a bit of a treat. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to do a little sexy poll. I'm not really great with technology. I'll be honest. I'll see whether this works. It might not, but we'll give it a go. I'll probably do the wrong order. So let's see whether it works. It's going to come out in a second. We're going to be asking people on a scale of 1 to 5 how you're feeling today. Put it in the chat box, which is right at the bottom. And I've literally just lost my earphones. Okay. Can everyone see the polling? Oh, okay. Oh, that's not bad. Oh, I'm dropping my, get up in a minute. That's not bad. Oh, okay. We've got a bit of 3, bit of 4. Oh, okay. Oh, everyone's doing all the topics. Okay. So which topic do you want to learn today? Time management, time hacks. Okay. Right.
Nice.
I'm just going to end that polling for the moment. Okay, so I want to say hi to everyone that is on the call. We've got people from Vincere, who sponsor the Talent Talk Asia podcast. We have got Bellward over in Malaysia. We've got Archer Recruitment. We've got Ambition. We've got Volt. We've got Cogs Agency. We've got Kelly Services. We've got NextWave, obviously. That'd be a bit awful if they weren't there. Filden, Charlotte House. So hi to everybody. I know we've got a number of people that didn't say where they were coming from and just sort of sent their Gmail accounts and things. So welcome. We are going to, let me just tell you the format of today. We would love you to write your questions in the chat box. Right at the bottom, we've got the chat. Please put your questions there. You feel, you know, I know it might be a little bit nerve-wracking. Please be honest, please be vulnerable. We're here to help. We know it's been a really tough year for everyone in recruitment. We want to give you some tips and hacks and insights and stuff that we've learned along the way, that we can get you really ready for 2021, that you smash your targets. And that's what we're here for. So if everyone can sort of type some questions in, we've got a few that are already sent to us already. So we're going to kick off with the first one, which, Vinny, I think I'm going to throw it out to you, my friend.
Yeah, give it to me.
What keeps you motivated? How do you keep yourself motivated during a bad day?
Yeah. Okay. This is a really good one, because I think everyone will agree, like recruitment, we've got our ups and downs. So what keeps me motivated? I think all along, like for me, why I even come into recruitment, it goes back to like, why am I doing this? Like, why do I wake up in the morning? For me, it's really giving like the best experience to anyone that I come across, whether they are clients, candidates, whether or not sometimes they might not have jobs, or they might not be looking out, or they might, if I caught them, they might have just gotten a job. But it's also like in that brief minute.
What's a good experience then? When you're saying, I want to give someone a good experience, what is that? Where do you get that from? What do you say? What do you do?
Yeah, so the experience, I would say positive experience, definitely, like whether they feel like they have a headache, they have a problem, they want to get some advice on, or they have like a genuine need for advice that I can come in to fill the gaps. Or simply giving, I think some candidates that I come across, they just don't have any confidence, or they feel like I have no like market value, they have really low self-worth, and just giving them a little bit of a moral boost to let them know like how can they help themselves out, or like how to move forward. So I think having this kind of conversation, it helps me to see how I can impact and help people. And when I'm down, honestly, I think right now, my team is also like a strong social or like support network for me. And And now I think I've gone from consultant to right now a team lead level, where it's no longer just thinking about like myself, but I actually do want my team to eventually be able to surpass me. I think that's when I can say that I'm successful. So I think my team really also keeps me going when I know that we want to be working towards success together.
I think if I was going to answer that one on the motivation part, I think everyone's got to redefine what is success right now. I think if we're just saying success is getting 5 jobs on this week, it might be a bit tricky to kind of feel motivated.
Yeah.
So I think you yourself as an individual consultant has to redefine that day what success looks like. It could be that success is breaking through to a new contact, or just increasing the number of new contacts you're bringing in that day, and that's a great success. It may not be on making 3 or 4 placements in that month. So redefine those successes so that at least you're managing your own expectations. I think that's one thing that really helps. I think another thing is, if you're working from home, try and do kind of, hits of an hour, sort of a speed hour, whether it's specking CVs or doing cold calls, just so that you've got the energy to be able to go out and, walk the dog, have some time to reflect on what your morning might have been, because I think that gives you that opportunity. Make the most of the fact that you are working from home for some of us, and take some time out and recharge. I think that's one thing when you're having to do a lot more BD calls, or putting yourself on the line, putting yourself out there a lot more. It can be a little bit demoralising, but also it takes a lot of energy out of you. So I'd say kind of plan your day that at least, instead of having a half an hour lunch sitting at your desk or sitting at home, go out and actually just see nature. That really is a great energy booster to kind of keep yourself motivated. I'm seeing a question here. What activities have you changed or implemented to keep your team motivated? I'll give that to you. Vinny, as a short answer for us on that.
Yeah, it's a good one. And I think Andrea also touched on a good point, is you want to be quite clear about defining success. And what's actually really relevant, I think, during the circuit breaker period, that's when we feel like the importance is really everyone's mental health, and to keep everyone motivated, especially if a lot of places are going through retrenchment and there's just a lot of like negative news out there. So we actually introduced this work from home buddy systems. So what we did was to just mix up across teams, across company, like director could be talking to a consultant or associate consultant. We mix it up, and the 2 buddies, we will rotate it every 2 weeks. And then it's also like a social support. So you could talk about like what headaches you're having in recruitment, how do you get through together? Or some of us were just doing like an hour of like workout session together. So that's pretty cool.
Oh,
so
what did you do on that then? Did you just, was someone sort of taking the lead on yoga or something?
Yeah.
Was someone sort of, what happened? How did you do that?
Yeah, I did it with my HIIT workout. And the lesson learned, we were like, okay, we shouldn't talk so much because we should just get into the workout. Right. We ended up talking for like 20 minutes before we start working out.
Right.
And we were using the free one, so it cut off at like 40 minutes. And we're like, oh crap, next time we'll time manage better.
Yeah, I love that.
But it was quite
fun.
I
love that idea. I think quite a few people are doing a few more virtual wines, especially this time of the year. It might be a virtual wine, it might be a mocktail night if you're not a drinker, and delivering the same kind of keg of beer or the same wine or the same kind of food dish, and you're all kind of sitting down and having virtual dinner together. Because I think it's about connecting with people. Something on that motivation or activities to keep your team motivated. I think recruiters that are all on the call today, you're all social animals, right? You all kind of, the reason you're in recruitment is probably because you like people. I'd say try and dedicate a day a week where you are actually making sure that you're having a lunch with a client or a candidate, and thinking about not just your traditional KPIs, thinking about place candidates that you haven't seen in over a year, or candidates that you got to 2nd round interviews that didn't get the job, or a candidate you registered a year ago that you haven't spoken to in 90 days. Like, think about all the people that you have touched or you've been in contact with but haven't done that recently, because it's different. It will re-energize you, but it'll also ensure that you're activating people that now might be looking for next year. Probably didn't want to look this year because it's a little bit rubbish this year, but for next year. So that also may, because it's a tweak in how you're doing things, it will probably spur on other people on the team, and so that might be something to think about. Do you want to kick off to the next question that's on the list? That we've got a lot, everyone, we've got a list of questions before the event as well from people, so we're just sort of slowly going through. But thank you, Vanessa, for your question. Hi, Vanessa, great to see you. Can everyone else be pumping questions on there as well? But do you want to kick off for the next one?
Sorry, I just want to add on the last one, because just adding on to it, because now we will also have like social distance like activities that we're going out in groups of 5. And the good thing is like phase 3 is coming, so that will go up to groups of 8. So I think this is about time to also probably start to look at whether going out to meet the clients, the candidate, but also within your own team and company. It's also good to mix out the team, because you might not have seen someone in another team for the longest time. Like Andrea and I were just saying, like, when was the last time we've met in person?
We were trying
to recall.
That was a long time. So the next question, how do you build relationships when you can't meet clients face to face? So Vinny, do you want to, can I throw that at you then?
Yeah, so I think like what we are doing now virtually. Yeah, so we do virtual coffee chat. So I would believe like everyone's been using Zoom. I actually really like it. I feel like it helps me really get through a lot more things. And especially if you have a very clear agenda set at the start of like what's the meeting about, you can still have the small talk in there. And it's just more impactful, I would say. First of all, make sure you make it clear so that it's a video call if you are asking whether the clients or the candidate, so that they are also prepared. You don't want to call them in like their pajamas or not ready to like turn on the video. And it's just good to see people face like over, even if it's virtually, right? And yeah, so I would say you can still build relationship. I've been like liking it a lot. And in fact, I think it helps you to even be able to get a lot more done. So what I do is I like to share the screen. So whether there's certain things you need to run through, or it's really easy, like when you finish the brief, you just pull out the CVs, go through the CVs. So there's a couple of tips here. Go through the CVs, and you can even book in the interview right then. So that's what I've been doing.
You also told me a tip that I don't know whether you want to share, but I'm gonna throw it out there. You also said what Vinny told me a few weeks ago was that what she also found really impactful with Zoom with a client was that she would get them committed on terms and conditions. Now we all know when we meet a client for the first time, we really dread sending them terms, right? Because we know we're going to get into a chat about negotiation. So what I think is really ballsy and a great way of just reducing your recruitment cycle is being able to say, I've got the T's and C's here. Let's go through those key points, so that, because you're also putting the client on the spot, right? And they're not going to really sort of, they're going to feel a bit uncomfortable if they say, oh, should we call back later? They're going to have to kind of get into it.
They can't run away.
Yeah, they can't run away. And then you can say, is there anything there that you feel that you want to discuss now? Anything that that you wanted to go into a bit more detail on, or do I have your commitment that you're going to sign that? I mean, what would be really amazing if you actually, I don't know if you've done this, Vinny, but you know, when you get the forms that are electronic and you can actually sign there and then, can you imagine if you could get them to sign there and then, and you wouldn't even have to get them to send it back? Loving that idea.
How cool
so that's
is
one.
that?
One thing I'm going to jump on the question again on how to keep it, how to get, what was it? How do you build relationships you can't meet face to face? I'm a big believer on, and I get a lot of feedback from HR about this and line managers, is if you don't have a CV or they don't have a job they're hiring for, they just want to know what's going on in their competitors. They want to know about takeovers. They want to know about restructuring of teams. They want to know about people movements. So if you can, as a business or even individually, spend time, you know, putting newsletters together, talking about new initiatives. Maybe it's them, the client's competitor is doing a new mental health policy or a new maternity policy or paternity, or, you know, think about all those kind of interesting stuff. It doesn't have to be about CVs and about talent. It can be about what that line manager is responsible for, which is just recruitment. It's about, you know, about team and profit and their strategy and competitor analysis. So have a think about what you can provide, and that might be sort of on email, or it might be a phone call saying, look, I'd love to just set this up. It might be a virtual round table where you're getting a couple of your clients together and discussing a topic and you're facilitating that, or you're just getting someone external to facilitate. Sanuki, thank you. Hi Sanuki, great to see you, see you. As a billing manager, how do you manage your own pipeline versus team? Over to you, Vinny. That's your one, my friend.
Yes, I think this is a really good one.
You need to talk up a little bit. I can't hear you so much.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Is it good? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So how to manage my own pipeline? I think once you get to this, once you get more experience, you probably will know how much effort you need to put in order to get the results that you want, whether you are looking at billing 30K a month or while still managing a team. So it also goes back to time management. But I will have my pipeline just the same as like my consultant will have their pipeline, and even like the BD plan, the weekly BD, we do BD hour together. I have to do it too. It's not that I don't have to do it. So I basically also make sure I also commit to what I requires the teams to do. So if they are having a BD call, it's just maybe mine is more targeted or it might be lesser, but I will still be aiming out for say 3 jobs. So what's helpful, I think, is also looking at how do we leverage on the team strength, what is everyone's role, and then how can we tap into it. So whether you're looking at cross-selling effectively among the team, rather so you don't feel like you're just doing the BD alone. So we get everyone on it together. I think managing my own pipeline, I have to also be conscious that I do have to build, I do have to look into this. So that is also part of my planning at the start of the week, alongside with making sure the individuals also are set up for the week. So I think that's then how you go down to plan your time.
Thank you, Vinny, for that. I think also as a billing manager, you've got to be careful that you're picking accounts or you're picking industries that are buoyant enough that can feed you. Because if you're trying to develop talent and hire talent and spend 30-40% of your time in the week looking after people on your team, and you're also going after a completely green field, you're going to really struggle. So it's a good idea to kind of either take, you know, a client or an industry that is fairly warm, that you can kind of just, you know, dip into that, or just really narrow it down so that it's easier to kind of penetrate. And I'm also a big believer when you're trying to juggle managing and billing is to really manage your diary, and you're making sure that when you've given a deliverable to a team member that you have put another kind of checkpoint midweek to say where you're at with that, where are you with that, is there anything going to stop you achieving that? Because what you don't want to do is get to the end of the week and find out that the tasks that you set out to the team haven't been achieved. I'm going to move on to something that is an anonymous attendee, which I think is a really interesting one, what someone's put up in the Q&A session, which you might not have seen. I wish many of Vinny's peers had the same thinking on what's important. I have to say that my personal experience in dealing with recruiters in the past 4 months has been abysmal. I'm really sorry to hear that. Lack of knowledge, lack of profession, lack of empathy, generally totally ignoring all attempts to communicate directly, lack of follow-up, breaking of promises, all rather pathetic. Thank you for sharing it, actually, and please, you know, I think recruiters need to hear that. I think in times like this, there have been some great recruiters in the market that have done a lot of voluntary work. I know, Vinny, you were doing a CV clinic a few months back, and actually spending time to help people get jobs. And there was a number of recruitment firms that have actually been doing that. And I think we can all listen to those lessons, but we all know. Yeah, this is my point I want to put across. I think it's really difficult when people have been let go, they're trying to pay their rent, they're trying to pay a mortgage, they're worried about their own status if they're an expatriate living here as well, maybe. And I think we have to realise that the part that we play as recruiters, that it isn't just about trying to get someone a job. We've got their life in our hands, right? You know, it's a vulnerable time in someone's life, and I can tell you right now, I've certainly been there when I left Robert Walters and came back after Germany, and I was looking for a role for a few months. It's the one time in your life you remember who helped you. You do remember the person that called you back when they said they're going to call you back. You do remember the person that spec'd you to a client when there wasn't a role there. You know, and I know Ambition Smookie's team have done quite a lot of that as well. And you know, it goes a really long way. So the next question I want to go on to is, because of COVID, clients are asking for reduced rates. Should you reduce the rates, and is it market practice to reduce market rate? Yeah, great one. Vinny, over to you about rates.
Yes, again, another good one, because we hear also from the clients and we hear from the market. With the COVID situation, people are more conservative too. I would say, first of all, try and understand their company situation, what's happening. And if they are hiring, it should be quite a good indicator that the company is doing fine or doing well if they are looking to hire. What is the reason they want to reduce rates? And I would, so first of all, understand like the reason behind, so you can tailor what solution, because it might be that they don't need a reduced rate, they can still pay, and you don't want to reduce your self-worth. If, and also to go way below the market rate, I wouldn't advise to do that. It might be they just need maybe a longer term payment terms to turn around. Maybe instead of 30 days, they need 60 days so that they have more cash in the bank. That's why we hear from a number of startups. It's not that they don't want to pay or they don't want to shortchange recruiters, especially specialist recruiters like us. They just want the flexibility to know that they don't have to fork out like a 30K at one go right now. So we have a couple of terms. Is more adjustment and looking at how to tie it back to tailor to them. So I'll say definitely understand what's the reason behind, what's the business situation, what's the plan, and look at really striking that longer term partnership. Because if they're really looking for reduction and you see the opportunity or you see the volume you can come into support, I think understand then put in place like a period. It might be, let's get through this COVID in together, maybe till June.
Ring fence it.
Yeah, so tie it into like maybe a 6 months period or even 1 year.
Can I just say something on that before you go on to the next bit of your part on that? With the, I think it's, I love that you said ring fence the time period, but also ring fence your department. If you're in a recruitment firm with loads of other departments, just ring fence your little area. It might also be ring fencing the job type, just that position. Because what you don't want is when in a few months' time the market picks up and you've stuck with a crappy rate for the next 3 months, right? Because again, as Vinny said, you are valuable. It is really hard being a recruitment consultant. It's a really hard job. So it's just so important to be able to value what you do. So don't go down low on rates, because I can tell you now, the client, if they know you can work on those rates, they'll expect you to work on those long term. So you've got to really make it clear that it's short term to show kind of deep, you know, just to sort of extend that olive branch. But other than that, it's you really don't want to be doing it long term. Sorry, Vinny, carry on.
No, I think that's really good. Thanks for adding on to it. Because I think you don't want to instinctively or like be very reactive to think of like, okay, this is the norm. I have to reduce the rate because everyone is doing it. And I will ask everyone like, don't do it. Let's not reduce our market rate. And you want to be, you also want to be conscious like we are still going to put in more time and efforts, and there might be a lot of job applicants, but we are still putting in like our 100% or more than that. So you don't want to
but I also think it's important to explain to clients that not every candidate that you go after is going to be on the database, is going to be on, because a lot of the time clients will say, well, why should I use you? I can get an internal TA, or I've got a network myself, that old chestnut. So it is a good idea just to say, well, because hopefully everyone that's listening, you've got candidates that you represent that aren't on LinkedIn, that are not being activated on LinkedIn, or they're from your network from years ago, or your boss's network. Maybe your boss has really been around a long time, and she or he has got names that aren't necessarily hanging on recruitment firms' databases. So that's something that is really unique. So I really advise you to be looking at the features and benefits and then deciding what is actually unique about you and the organisation that not other recruitment firms have, because then you start really valuing what it is you bring. I'm going to go off this subject now, because on Talent Tip Tuesday on my YouTube channel, there's a whole 10-minute about what value you bring and kind of valuing what you do. So you don't know, there's one on don't reduce rates. There's one on that. So there's a lot on that. One thing before we go on, one thing when clients come back and say, can you do 10%? Can you do 12%? Whatever it is, start to use the what question. What's behind that position? What's behind that rate, Mr. Client or Mrs. Client, right? Because I think sometimes we have a tendency, as soon as we hear price objection, we completely freak out, right? We completely go, oh, it's a fee, it's an objection. We all get worried because we all get uncomfortable talking about money, even though you're salespeople and you like to make money. But so it's a really good idea to kind of say, well, you know, Thanks for raising that, but what's behind that? A lot of the time, clients haven't really thought about why they've gone in on that amount. They just want it cheaper. So if you're able to say, well, what difference does it make if you went in between my number? Like, start to kind of break up the argument, break it down a little bit, find out what's under the bonnet of that client. Why does he really want to go in on that amount? What, is it that HR that told them to do that? What's the reasons? Don't just assume that it's standard. You have to kind of you have to go to that number. Talk about it. Feel confident enough to politely, respectfully discuss it. Okay, Vinny, next one is, I think, the one we've got about the motivator, we've kind of covered already. And the person who put it, I know you, I'll call you later if you want to know more on that. Vinny, this one's really good for you. Has COVID-19 had much effect on your billings at your end? How do you manage this? How do you manage this with your team during this period? It's a great one.
Yeah, this is a good question. So I think overall, I would say that we are actually done well this year despite COVID. Honestly, the circuit breaker phase was the one that we had the biggest hit, whether in terms of invoice or border. So it's probably around April, May, June period. But it's also that time that we started re-strategizing. How do we do things differently? And we actually built up a new market during that phase. And then one of my team member actually managed to become overachieve. He basically overachieved a lot on his own budget from there. And it's very impressive, I would say, because it's a new desk that we built from scratch that came out from COVID. So overall, I'm pretty happy actually, even though we had a tough time back then.
So if I'm a consultant listening to this, how, how can someone out there make money in fields that you haven't done it before? Like, is this sitting down with your manager and going, looking at past placements? Like, talk me through the strategy of some, so that people out there can maybe hear a different perspective on that.
Yeah, okay. I'll throw out all my tips there. So I think at the start of April, we are looking at, when we know that we need to gather information. So because we also don't know where it's going to go back in April. So we were talking to people, we're talking to as many people, client, candidates, network, peers, recruiters, friends, just finding out like, okay, what's happening, where the market is going. Then I think we take a judgment call. There are some desks that we felt like they will recover. It's just a matter of time. They are going to recover, whether 3 months, 6 months is going to come back. So for those markets, we know that we still have to constantly keep up the level of activity, if not more. So we are prepping for the time when the market comes back. We will be immediately available to assist any positions there. So that's the consistency that we still keep going. And then the markets that we know that it is going to be in the long haul, it's going to be affected. What are the opportunities, where the demand is going? What are whether COVID-proof or recession-proof market? Or even the industries, the markets that we have seen, because we know hospitality, travel, all these are affected, but what are the markets that actually thrive because of COVID?
Has gone up and
exactly.
Wine industry, FMCG, in certain extent, delivery companies, just thinking broadly.
A lot of the companies with digital service, they have all thrive. So they have the opportunity that they then are quite urgent. That they need these people to be able to fill the current needs that come out from COVID.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think as consultants, don't feel that the answers can always come from your bosses. You think about the behaviours of what you've just put more money into this year, where have you spent your money? And so think of that from an organisational perspective. Think about companies like Zoom and video conference. Think about podcasts have gone up because more people are listening to them. Like, think about what has changed this year in terms of people's behaviours. That's led to increase in revenues, that leads to organisations growing, and so it kind of also can guide you. So be inquisitive, be curious about that. Anything else on that side, Vinny, that you wanted to add on to that?
I think just adding on, because the second question talks about how do I manage this with my team, right, during this period. So I'm also really happy, like, my team, we come together. So it wasn't like just me doing it. Of course, it's like our whole team of 9, we are on it and we know where we are going and we support one another. So I think it's important to have that conversation and make sure everyone is in the same page, because I might not be having the best idea. So, but my consultant who is talking to people in their specialization day to day, they will know their market better. So I'm also looking to them for their advice and insights.
I think one thing that everyone listening probably won't know is that Vinny does kind of a weekly like lunch and learn with the guys during COVID. I'd speak to her during COVID time. And she was regularly asking the guys, look, what area is it that you need right now? It's, you know, and it might be, how do we be more empathetic when we're talking to clients? How do we kind of show that we care and that we kind of, you know, we're there with them? How do we show that? What do we say? What do we do? And it's those kind of things, I think, that it's, you can't always pay for people like me externally all the time, right? We get it, right? So how can you use the expertise of the group and the ideas and the strengths on the team to come together and and that was like a weekly thing that you were picking a topic and also doing Zoom calls where you were listening to others doing BD calls and giving feedback there and then. So I think, you know, I think you were able to do that way. I think there was some of those ideas. I've got on here, what is your biggest takeaway from 2020? What would you do differently as a manager and a recruitment consultant moving into 2021? Perfect, love it.
Nice. I think my biggest takeaway this year definitely is how important it is to be very adaptable, to be able to capture opportunities in the midst of crisis. And I think I see that not just like for ourselves, but businesses, because we've seen business and we have had a number of business who unfortunately have to lay off or go through retrenchment. And we feel like those that really get ahead of the curve or get ahead of the competition, they adapt very quickly and they make very fast decisions. They have very decisive leaders. And also, I think another important part is people is at the core and they really think about people. And it kind of links to the previous point also, where I feel like we also changed our pitch, like what Andrea said. We had like our lunchtime learning and all of us talk about how we going to go in empathetically to really understand, because you don't know whether this person will be fired or are they in a good or bad position. So we have to be a lot more sensitive. It
was having vulnerable conversations, wasn't it? And being able to say to clients, look, I've personally found it a little bit hard trying to adjust and find a room in my place and being able to kind of share something that created a conversation.
I was using ironing board as a table for a couple of months.
The tip now is use an ironing board to wrap your presents. That's the tip in England at the moment. What would you do differently then next year? Like what would be? I mean, I know you've just come off a course with me, but what do you think you're going to do differently next year that will, ensure that your team and yourself hit those targets that you've learned maybe from this year?
So actually recently, I think Andrea is well aware we've been doing a lot more as a leadership team. And I feel like next year moving forward, not just whether independently, but it's really good to get support from my peers, the other fellow pod leaders. And we are basically all in this together, and it's tough to be building and managing people. And there's always like new things that comes out. So I actually really appreciate, I feel like it's probably like an enlightenment that we see. It's actually really important to have a united leadership team. And we have already been doing quite a number of things together, and we are cross-driving a lot. What
if you don't have it though? What if you don't have it? I mean, it's great that you have it, and I'm really happy for you. But what if you don't have that? What if you're sitting in a firm and actually you don't have control of that, right? So how can that individual, as a manager or a consultant, go into next year? Not on their own, because you can't always blame what's around you. If you've got to be successful in your own right. So what can someone be doing to ensure they hit their targets next year? That is something that you've learned this year, irrespective of a leadership team. And
so if on that topic, if I feel like I don't have the support, I think it's look for if there's any backing from whether your direct manager. Of course, that's the best. Otherwise, where could you get backing? If not, are there allies that you could get, like a fellow peer or pod leaders that have the same aspiration, or they are driven to want to achieve together? Are there fundamental problem that has to be addressed, and you get your allies on board together to move forward?
Yeah, and also I think just if you've got clients of a certain
Yeah.
level that you get on really well with, that you feel that could kind of externally do some sort of mentoring, I think is also a great thing to be looking at. How would you ensure your teams or consultants implement the strategy rather than just agreeing to reduce rates in order to get terms signed? That's a good question. So this is obviously, yeah, did you see that one, Vinny? I'm just getting you to answer them all. So how would you ensure your team don't just agree to reduce rate rather than just agreeing to reduce rates in order just to get terms signed? So what you're saying is, so if I've heard this right, how do you ensure that the consultants really do stick to their guns and don't just reduce their rate for an easy life? Great question. Absolutely great. That's absolutely happen.
Yeah, because I feel like terms and condition itself is not going to be done in like 5 minutes conversation, and the consultant probably could benefit from like run a proper training. I think first of all, they have to know the terms and condition of the company inside out.
Inside out,
at least
absolutely.
They have to know the key one, and they need to know how to respond when the objection comes in. And once they cover the foundations, then it will give them confidence to go and tackle, and then that itself is like part of the strategy.
Also have a role play with your manager or a peer and let the other person be a really, objectionable client, and so that you're able to practice in a really calm, respectful, open-ended questions how you deal with those objections.
Yeah,
that's probably a good one to do.
That's a great one, because I did it with the team. It was really fun. We had lots of laughter also. So we have a team of 9, and then I'm hosting. So we got everyone to pair up. But so the first person will act as the client to test out the second person, and then they'll give different kind of objections. So we're basically pulling different objections out of a box.
Oh, I love that.
And then
That's
tackle on the spot.
Yeah, it's fun.
And then the consultant are doing it. So I'm simply like facilitating. So the answer comes from them, and they give one another advice. So that was really good.
I like the training on it, but how, like the questions, person, how do you ensure that behind closed doors, the consultant isn't just saying, oh, okay, that's fine, I'll go down to 50%. How can you ensure you retain those rates? How are you ensuring that they buy in and commit to sticking to standard terms and conditions?
Got it. It's good leading question, because then for us, we set a standard. So we have we have like a baseline standard basically.
Okay.
We all are working to.
So set that first of all. Okay.
And we also rewards when people break the record, whether going up to 25% or above. We celebrate that. So people do want to break the record and get better. But there's also a very clear baseline and standard. So if they are actually signing at a reduced rate under the baseline, they have to get permission from the pod leaders, like myself and all our directors. So it's quite structured then. So if they know like they are getting anything under 20%, they don't have the authority to get it done.
So you're reinforcing, you're basically encouraging behaviours for people to do it, and obviously calling people out if they're not. I'm going to move on to the next one. We've got 20 minutes until it ends. We're going to finish at 10:02. So I want to get 10 minutes of a quick fire round. I have got a really lovely one I wanted to share. With many candidates in the market being very hesitant to move and becoming more passive, how do you go about influencing candidates to move in this current market?
We get it a lot nowadays, and people are more conservative and they are looking for stability. I think first of all, if they are talking to us, they must have a push factor, I feel.
Well, what if they're not though? What if you're
they are just very passive.
I mean, if they're coming to you can already influence them. Let's say they're headhunting candidates. They don't know you. What kind of things can you say and do? And I'll answer something. I'll answer it after you.
So I will still find out like what's attractive for them to make them move, and then what are their aspirations. So I think I definitely need all those information. I need to answer those questions.
I'll do a talent tip Tuesday on this one, because I think I covered it in a recent online training thing. I think what's really important on the influencing candidate side is you've got to get someone to visualize what that next move looks like. So the first thing is, if you can meet them face to face, that's ideal, right? Because you can way more influence people face to face. Always doing it over Zoom or doing it on the phone can be a little bit tricky because they don't trust you, they don't know you. So if you can see them face to face, or or just be, you know, make sure you're being very clear when you communicate on the phone, is to be asking them, look, I'm not asking you to move right now. I'm here long term to be able to track your career and move you into a role in the future. What would that future role look like for you? You know, what is it that perhaps you're not 100% getting in the role now? Because what you're doing then, you're getting that person to reflect. It's a really powerful thing, especially December time. You get more resignations, more people reflecting over Christmas period or Lunar New Year, and then they start moving, right? We all know the cycle of people's behaviours. So people want to start a year, fresh job and things like that. So if you can kind of get them to visualise what needs are not being met currently and what that future role looks like, it's easier for you to influence with a particular role. So that was one thing I would. Should we move on to another one, Vinny?
Yeah.
This is fun. I love this power
rapid fire.
Would you like to pick one? I feel like I'm being really bossy. Do you want to pick one? Can you see it, or you?
I can see it. I actually, this will be, maybe we need a sidebar. This an anonymous attendee mentioned he or she is lost in direction and not sure if recruitment is what they want to do in the long run.
I don't think I'm going to answer that one, just because
I would say
we've got lots of recruitment people in here. So
I would say more sidebar. You can drop me a line.
What can you do if you're trying to get in touch with candidates during their work from home? Switchboard doesn't transfer to their mobiles. I know, really annoying. And they're not in the office. After trying through referrals and still not succeeding, how do you get in touch with these people at home? Love that question. Over to you, Vinny.
Do you use Lucia?
I have Lucia.
Lucia or Zoom Info.
There's a plugin, isn't it? Lucia, Lusha. It's an email verification tool plugin, isn't it? Is that what we call it?
Yeah.
It sometimes works, sometimes doesn't though. It's not 100%
exactly.
effective, is it?
50%.
What's the other one?
Best catch usually is we do a lot of referrals where people refer people.
Right, so you're really targeting an organisation or a job type or a department that you've perhaps placed in the past or registered someone on the database before, and you try and get a name, phone number that way. Yeah,
but I'll just advise, like for us, we do want to make them feel comfortable and just checking with them, like, are they okay for us to mention them or keep them anonymous? Then they'll feel more comfortable to share.
Yeah. I think also just having a long-term strategy. I know that's a short-term, the one that we talked about, as in get the number there and then, which is exactly what you should be doing, but also a long-term strategy of building more candidate referrals is just having lots of call cycles after every day of candidates that you have met and registered that you perhaps couldn't get a job for at that particular time. That's a great way every 3 months talking to them, getting referrals, finding out what they're doing. It's a long-term kind of playing the long game, but it really works.
And if I don't know what you think about this. Like, if you have the email, could you like just drop them an invite for a virtual coffee, catch up for 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
I think the purpose is if you don't have the email, though, if you don't have anything, but you can pretty much guess the email, can't you? A lot of the time.
Yeah, try and guess the email.
Sometimes I just don't ever reply on email. Again, that one, there's a Talented Tuesday of how to do on YouTube, on the Career Establishment one, on how to do subject headers and subject emails to be more compelling. So you might want to have a look at that. Many industries face a common issue of working in a talent short market. What strategies do you implement to ensure you're maintaining a strong candidate network?
Yeah. So I think Andrea mentioned call cycle is very important.
Which a database can sometimes help you with, or you might have to do it manually, right?
Yes. And just going out there to network too. Right now it's a lot of virtual network, but I think we're starting to see like conference and people are starting to be more open to go out for coffee again. In fact, I felt like people are a lot more receptive because they are sick of staying at home. So now they will actually love a coffee outside. Yeah. So talent shop market, you've got to be creative. Like look at any community that is in your space that you can join, or any like there's a lot of online community groups as well. So I think those are areas you can look into, what's relevant for your desk.
I also think you've just got to also go back to basics. There's a number of candidates you've placed in the past, or maybe you're new and it's your team have placed and they've left. Candidates you've registered before and no one's ever spoken to in the last 3 months. Candidates that got to first, second, third round that hasn't been spoken to in 3 months. These are all candidates that are in your network that you have got. But it's a bit like it's a bit like looking at your LinkedIn and going, oh, I've got 4,000 people in my network. Woohoo! You've probably spoken to about 100 of them. Like you're not talking to your network. So I think it's a really good idea to really get back to basics and have some really targeted process and structure around key data metrics. That's the right word, data, key criterias, and for generating more candidates. Well, not generating more, getting more out of them, because you might have that one candidate you placed in your team placed 2 years ago. Well, they've moved on now. They're somewhere else now. They could be referring people from the firm they just came from. So again, it's actually about really digging deeper to what you have than just, then it's a bit like business development. Don't go out and get a load of new clients until you kind of look at what you've already got. Where do you start to prepare for a roundtable event, webinar? How do you plan for that? Well, gosh, me and Vinny have no idea what we're doing for our webinar. If it wasn't for Joanne, my marketing girl, this would never happen. I think for a roundtable event virtually, I think how you would start doing that is have a think as an organisation or as a team on who are your top clients or senior candidates. If you've got a senior candidate that's out of work, that's really credible, but is just in between jobs or has been made redundant, but they're really credible, they've got something good to say, it's a really good idea to either get them as a guest keynote and interview them, either yourself or someone else in your business that's good at communication and asking questions. You could interview them, or you could do a round table event where you're picking a topic or and taking key individuals from your clients or candidates, put them in a virtual room and discussing specific topics. It does take time, does take a lot of effort. You do need to have credible people or else people won't turn up. And same applies for a webinar. I think it's a bit like today is find something you're really passionate about that you know about. If there's an area of expertise for you, you might be a really junior recruiter, but you're absolutely fantastic at interviewing candidates. Well, you could do a webinar and tell other recruiters in the region how to do it and how to do it well. I think it's about supporting a recruitment industry and a community and creating a community right now, instead of everyone closing their doors and being highly competitive. Like, we just don't need to do that.
Do we have time for one more? I see one really interesting.
We have. Go for it. Last question.
Last one. Okay. So a question says it's really hard to keep giving monetary incentive to keep teams engaged. What else are you doing to keep the morale of teams high, thereby ensuring high performance? That's a good one.
Other than cupcakes and breakfast.
Because I think a lot of us are looking towards the money, like we love the money, but also I think there's a lot more underneath and more to it. So I think it's really understanding the individual's motivation and why are they doing this, their purpose. And there's got to be something more than the money. And it's even like, why do they need money? And
that's why I think PDP is always a good idea, personal development plans at the beginning of the year, because then you can really find out what their purpose is and what how you can help them achieve those goals other than just monetary.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I feel like monetary, having with the company, if the company have a clear, good structure in place, that's like the fundamental. And then sometimes some rewards is just good to get a bit of the spark or like get the fun going. But if you want it to be sustainable, you got to really dig into it, understand your team's motivation and what do they want basically. Because I would say more support and guide.
I would say it's also about managing expectations early on with that member of staff or your team, and that, if people go above and beyond, then they'll get bonuses for that and you'll get a basic salary. But if you go down the route, and I'll say I was definitely guilty of that as where there was incentive after incentive, like seriously, it was just like kind of like pick a note. And I think you get to the point where actually people just aren't grateful for it. They're not content with it. And I think we kind of went a bit too far. So you have to be careful. We've got 10 minutes. We can wrap up in 5 minutes, Vinny. Let's go for one more. How can you juggle? How to juggle BD when you have a lot of delivery to do?
Oh, I love this. I get this question all the time. So if you have a lot of delivery, you feel like you could fill those roles, you still have to do BD. You have to, for consistency and to make sure you don't ever fall into a point where you are dry and you felt like you're at your worst. So you want to be able to be consistent. So you always have to do BD. So how to juggle? I schedule weekly BD. So as a team. So it's basically like whether you have a lot of delivery, you regardless of what reason, you've got to make it for that 1 hour. And it's just that 2 hours split into 2 days, 1 hour each, and you got to do it. And everyone is doing it, even if they have a lot of delivery, and it doesn't take too much of your
You
time.
can't not do it. I think that's when consultants are not consistent billers throughout the year.
Yeah.
They have a really great quarter, then they're rubbish the next. It's because they don't have it diarised in their diary, and they don't compromise on that.
Yeah, and we do it as a team because we know it's very tough to also motivate yourself to go and do it, and like you need that discipline. So as a team, we kind of like we know we all have to do it together.
Yeah,
and we're all supported. If you get off a bad call, then it's fine. Your colleagues probably like might be facing another rejection beside you, and then when you get a good call, then you celebrate it. So I thought that's quite a good I would say we vibe off one another.
Yeah, or you can just enroll in my e-learning business development course. Right, Vinny, I'm gonna. Don't everyone go yet. I know everyone's thinking, oh, she's finishing now. She's not going to answer any more questions. So we will send to everybody the links to Talent Tip Tuesdays, which you can basically, because I think that's going to go into a little bit more detail for everybody. And please, everyone, share with me the types of challenges you're facing, because all over Christmas, I'm going to be writing and talking about those tips ready for next year. So make them relevant I want to make it relevant for you all. So please, if you've got challenges like today with these questions, which are awesome, by the way, please just send them over to me and we'll get that out to you. Is there anything else pressing that anyone wants to ask? One more question that's really important that they want to know? Anything? If there is, please put it on the Q&A. Vinny, you're an absolute star. You were fabulous at batting off all those questions and quick fire for a whole 53 minutes. So I really, really appreciate that. To everybody out there, thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. I know it's really been a tough year. You're all awesome. You'll do a great 2021. It's down to you to just make some tweaks. I hope that the tips and insights have been really useful. Please reach out to Vinny if there's something specific you wanted to ask her. I think she's obviously shown that she knows her stuff, so I'm sure she'll be happy to receive any calls. And do reach out if you need anything on my side. But thanks again. Merry Christmas. Is there anything you want to say on your side, Vinny, before I over and out it?
No, I think all good. I think everyone need to give themselves a pat on the back for getting through this year. It's been a tough year, but we are going through this, and it will be better from here on.
The worst is over.
Yes.
Good luck. So everyone, good luck for 2021. Take care. Be safe out there. Have a great festivities. Hope you have some good time off. And thanks again for taking the time to listen to Vinny and I. Over and out.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.